Hello, this is Mash Dumpaboa coming at you with a emergency kind of update thing. This is actually pretty important to this game's whole future right now, considering that this is something that happened a couple days ago, but and it's very important to Jurassic World Live in itself, but just ludia games in general, but especially Jurassic World Live. So, if none of you, I would assume most of you, if almost all of you don't know, um, uh, recently, as in a couple of days ago, about 4 days ago, Jam City, which is the new owner of Ludia, which they bought them out several months ago. They acquired them quite a while ago, but Jam City has just laid off around 17% of their work of Ludia's employees. So that's about around 200 employees, which if any of you can realize what that means is that well, there's going to be less people working, and just getting laid off is a terrible thing in general, especially with how the workforce is today. And I'm not going to get super political about this because it's such a complex fucking topic, and I am in no position to talk about it completely. But I do just want to briefly mention that this is something that's happened, and there are possibly some dark implications going forward for the future of this game. Whether or not we're going to be the trickle of updates, well, the monthly update or so, like monthly or like 2 monthly updates, like they might slow down. We might be getting less and less going forward, just because there's less people working on the game. Because how most businesses work, especially with game development. There are certain sanctions and certain departments that work on certain things, and since 200 people have been laid off or no longer working at Ludia, mainly, and also the main thing that's shocking about this is that the 200 employees themselves were not told until they realized they had been laid off, because they weren't allowed to do the work they normally would do. So that's frankly quite shocking. So, but gonna go to on a slight tangent and more or less kind of mention that the kind of rocky state the game is in. If you've noticed, I imagine you've all noticed, but there's been a steady but noticeable, continuous power creep that's been happening in the game. Now, power creep has always been a part of Jurassic World Live, obviously, because it's been happening with this game ever since it was released, but we haven't seen it to this degree. It seems every update we get something absolutely totally busted, each new update. And thing is, it only has really started to get worse ever since Jam City acquired Ludia. I noticed that there was this substantial drop in quality in terms of the updates post Jam City's acquirement of Ludia, because I believe this wholeheartedly, is that Ludia was doing pretty well before this. They were actually trying to improve the game and move away from the mistakes they had already been doing. But afterwards, it seems that they were thrown right back into that previous cycle of, pushing out bad update after bad update with, horrible balancing and just confusing additions and changes. And in general, I think most of it can be blamed on Jam City, purely because Jam City is a much larger company, and we all know especially with app games, mobile game companies, the larger they are, the worse they are, because they don't treat their workers nearly as well, and it's all pay-to-win shit. And sure, Jurassic World Live has had its moments of being pay-to-win, but it's only recently has it gotten really bad with the advent of things like, um, what's a prime example? I guess first prime example of like this major power creep was, I guess, Forex and Indotaurus, but I don't. I'm not entirely sure if that was before or after Ludia was acquired, but I do know certainly it was after Ludia was acquired. That's when we got Arctovacillus, and Arctovacillus was absolutely busted, and it still is rather strong. Not nearly as strong as it used to be, but that's purely because everything else around it has gotten stronger. But then afterwards, we got things like Ankylos's Lux, and now we've got like Buffed Mortem, and now we've got things like Alberta Sevia, Rexy, new Compsoraptor, like all these, which are things that are, more or less blurring the lines between what is. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention Tyrannochire is also pretty strong, frankly, blurring the line of whether or not it is like the best thing in the game. So, like, just in general, this is like, I don't want to make people panic, obviously, because, you know, I love this game for a lot of reasons, and I just mainly hate seeing it in the state that it's in. But this is more just kind of a, heads up. Like, this is some pretty important development that I don't think, anyone is talking about because it flew under the radar. I only became aware of it 4 days after it happened. So that's also, that's important. Also, in other news, Ludia made a Discord server, and I haven't joined it personally, but from what I've heard, it was, I don't know, a disaster. I think, or at least I think it was. I heard it was pretty funny, but I am unsure of what its current state is because I have not bothered to join it. But if any of you have joined it, please let me know what it's like, just because I'd love to hear about it. But I think that's about it in terms of like all the information on this, because this is, it's a far more complex topic, and I'm just bringing in like a little bit of information about this whole topic. So I would say do your own research. Like, I think I might provide like a link to an article or some form of information about this so you can read up and form your own opinion about this whole little Ludia employees being laid off thing, and what that might mean for the future of the game. But that's all I'm gonna say. This is Majdumpaboa signing off. Hopefully, I'll have something actually interesting for you, as in my audience, you, the people who watch these things. Hopefully, I'll have something new, interesting to share, soon. Hopefully, if I can get those two people on who really want to do that episode, it'll be fun. So, see you around.